Andy Burnham, in several mayoral elections, has won not just every borough of Greater Manchester, but every ward of Greater Manchester. The guy is like Kim Jong Un, right?
Andrew Gwynne's decision to stand down as an MP, first reported by The Times, has opened a potential path for Andy Burnham to return to Westminster and challenge Keir Starmer for the leadership. Of course, Stephen Kinnock, who was doing the media round for Labour today, came on Times Radio Breakfast, and of course he was asked about this.
Look, I'm definitely not going to be here on your radio station giving any advice to Andy Burnham. He's been around the block a few times himself, and he can make up his own mind on these issues.
It's a problem for both men, isn't it, Patrick? Because in some ways now Andy Burnham can't risk not running, and Keir Starmer can't risk blocking him.
Yeah, it's somewhat reminiscent of, do you remember, you must remember this as American politics maven, Ed, 1988, Mario Cuomo, the governor of New York, was passing a budget in Albany, in the state capital. He had to get, I think it was to New Hampshire in time or somewhere, to file his papers to enter the Democratic primary. And he had the plane idling on the tarmac. He was the Hamlet across the Hudson, is what they called him, and he never did it. And his stature never recovered after that because everyone thought Mario Cuomo was the slam dunk. Anyway, so Andy Burnham's sort of in that position. The plane is idling on the tarmac. Perhaps not a Manchester airport, but maybe at Barton Aerodrome, which is the private airport in Manchester. And we're wondering whether he's going to get in it. But that, I think, is a second-order question. This is a much bigger problem if Andy Burnham wants to go for this. And having spoken to friends of Andy Burnham, that's not a euphemism, I actually mean friends of Andy Burnham, some people think he will sit this one out, others think he will go for it. And as of last night, I think Andy Burnham had genuinely not decided what to do, because it's a big gamble. The timing, is it too early? But my view is that this is his chance. He should take it. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, well, look,
I would not like to be Andy Burnham this morning.
There's no guarantee that a chance like this will present itself again. He has to seize it, if only to dispel the idea that he's a bottle job, that he's indecisive, etc., which are perennial Labour criticisms. But for Keir Starmer, this is difficult. Now, Keir Starmer, as usual, and his aides and his allies would take refuge in process. As I write in The Times this morning, the National Executive Committee, which runs the Labour Party, has to give any sitting mayor permission to run. Then it controls whether someone can go forward as a candidate. Then it does the long list. Then it does the short list. Then it will... and you know, all of this can be controlled by Keir Starmer's aides and allies who have a majority on the National Executive Committee. But politics doesn't work like that. Even if they did exercise their power to block him using whatever pretext, probably the cost of a mayoral by-election in Greater Manchester that would be triggered by him having to stand down, which he would by law have to stand down. He can't do both. They've tried this before when they indicated in a briefing to The Times in June 2024 rather, that they wouldn't let Diane Abbott run. Then there was a week-long row. All it will take is Angela Rayner to come out and say it's wrong, some union leaders to come out and say it's wrong, Lucy Powell to say, look, I'm behind Keir Starmer as deputy leader, but my mandate's from the members and I can tell the overwhelming will of the members is for Andy Burnham to run. And then all of a sudden, the real source of power in the Labour Party, the not formalised channels, the power brokers, all of that, where your power really comes from as Labour leader will become clear, and it's not just with the rule book, and I think that's the risk here. And as you said at the top of the show, Ed, it's a huge declaration of weakness to block Andy Burnham. It's a sort of, I know this guy is coming in here and he's more popular than me, he could challenge me for my job, so I'm going to invoke procedures to do it. A self-confident leader would say, Andy, by all means, come in, join the cabinet. You're a great guy. You know, you're a great talent, etc., etc. But there's no sign of them doing that. And I know this is causing a lot of consternation and back and forth in Downing Street and the cabinet. The key person, by the way, in all of this is the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who, as well as being Home Secretary, is, I don't know where she finds the time, chair of the Labour NEC. So her judgment will be crucial. And I know she'll be looking at, OK, what's Angela Rayner likely to say? What's Lucy Powell likely to say? Can we sustain our political position if we make decision to block him. And so it's, what does Keir Starmer think? What does Morgan Sweeney think? What does Siobhan Mahmood think? And indeed, is Andy Burnham prepared to seize the nettle? Lots of big ifs at play here.
And is he going to win the by-election?
Oh, look, I think this is classic Westminster too clever by half stuff.
Ooh.
Andy Burnham runs in a by-election in Greater Manchester. Of course he wins.
Really?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. He's the most...
It's a by-election, Patrick. The rules don't apply.
Yeah, of course the rules don't apply. Reform will give him a good go. George Galloway could run. You know, George Galloway kept his deposit in Manchester Gorton, slightly different constituency, but nonetheless he ran there in 2017 and kept his deposit. But I just think, look, Andy Burnham, in several mayoral elections, has won not just every borough of Greater Manchester, but every ward of Greater Manchester. The guy is like Kim Jong Un, right? Like, he is the most popular. He's the only Labour politician in the country with a positive approval rating. And I know this is quite difficult for people in Westminster to get into their heads. And yes, people who've worked with him might say, oh, he's indecisive, he's a bottle job, oh, you know, he flip-flops, ha, 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 chips and gravy, all of that nonsense. But let's be honest with ourselves in Westminster. Lots of us need to get out of London, and yes, maybe I'm party pre, because like Andy Burnham, I'm a wool, I'm from the outer boroughs of Merseyside, but speaking to normal people in the north of England, they will tell you that they quite like Andy Burnham, and they might not be able to tell you why, but it's clear, and it doesn't matter if you went for lunch with Andy Burnham in the 90s at the River Cafe, and he seemed at home.
I took him to Chelsea Everton in the 90s.
Well, yeah, and you probably went for a drink in Soho, and he seemed at home. And yeah, he went to Cambridge. Yeah, he was a spad. But ultimately, regardless of whether you think this whole we always felt out of place in London,
right,
to be honest with you, Ed, is sincere or
right,
not,
Patrick
it
Maguire,
works.
That's me told.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it's not about you. It's about 1 million people who slag off Andy Burnham. I'm sorry, I'm not here as president as the Andy Burnham fan club. I'm just saying, let's get out of Westminster. Whatever he's doing, even if he means it or not, it works. And yes, of course he'd win a by-election in Greater Manchester. Of course he would.
All right. Get off the fence. Coming up, we're going to talk about how the government will respond to Donald Trump's claim that NATO troops, British troops indeed, avoided the front line in Afghanistan.
Water. It doesn't get nearly enough credit. You drink it, you grow your dinner with it, you wash your bits with it, you surf on it like some kind of levitating wizard. Yes, water is the greatest. Without it, Earth would be just another dry, crusty cosmic fail, like Mars. Think about it. Everything you know and love starts with water. Your dog, your car, your internet, which is basically just a load of sweaty computers kept cool in a bath. And then there is just the small miracle of keeping us alive. Without drinking water, you wouldn't survive more than 3 days. Some mates take longer to text you back. So, let's raise a glass to clean water. It's hard to imagine life without it. Seriously, how is it that 1 million people die every year because they lack access to clean water? That's not just unthinkable, that's wrong. Donate to WaterAid today. Just £2 a month can give life-changing clean water.
I thought that I'd seen beauty. Then I sailed where icebergs gleam. I thought I'd witnessed nature, but this surpassed my dream. I thought that I'd known wonder, then sailed beneath these skies. I thought I'd seen the world until I opened my eyes. Change the way you see the world with HX Expeditions. Search Travel HX to discover more.
Listen to Times Radio on your smart speaker. Just say, play Times Radio.
Ed Vaizey on Times Radio.
Still with me is the Times chief political commentator, Patrick Maguire. We're going to talk about the Prime Minister's week and how he's reacted to the turmoil caused by Donald Trump. Let's start with this. This is Donald Trump talking to Fox News, talking about NATO allies, including the UK.
We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
Well, somebody's texted in saying, I thought this was unbiased coverage on the radio, but on this issue I am biased. It's the most offensive, one of the most offensive things I've heard President Trump say. It's really outrageous. But Patrick, as a political commentator, I guess the more objective question to ask you is, how does Keir Starmer, one of his great talents is handling Donald Trump, react to this?
Well, I think he has to say something similar to that which Kemi Badenoch said this morning, which was, again, very, very out there for Kemi Badenoch, very robust for Kemi Badenoch. She said it's flat out nonsense. I imagine we'll hear something similar from Keir Starmer, who enjoyed his session of PMQs on Wednesday, and Number 10 were very chipper about it, precisely because he said what he thought about Donald Trump and Greenland, which was that the president was out of line. And while I don't think it's likely that we're going to see the UK go the full Mark Carney in the rhetoric and foreign policy decisions it's making, Keir Starmer clearly feels empowered to be more critical of Donald Trump this week. And there is no way any UK Prime Minister, or indeed the leader of a mainstream political party, can say, actually, you know what, Donald Trump is right, our troops are cowards, or our troops shirked their responsibilities at the first sound of gunfire. I can't remember exactly what government ministers said at the time, but when J.D. Vance also cast aspersions on the service of British troops in the Middle East a few months ago, they were similarly blunt about it, but I think they'll be even blunter now.